we're going to have a look at our strap now. Now, the measurements that I've given you in the pattern for the strap are an advisory. You can make it as long or as short as you want. It really depends on how you plan on carrying this bag. It's quite a slouchy bag, and it's one of those that when I sort of it in my head, thought might sort of sit underneath your arm, sort of like a hobo type bag. But if you prefer a longer crossbody strap, then go for it. If you prefer a longer one to wear on your hip, then go for it. The strap construction is exactly the same regardless of what length you make it. Now, I had a friend round yesterday doing some sewing with me, having a sort of a mini lesson, and she saw the bag and said, oh, I'd like that, can I buy that one off of you? So I'm actually making my strap longer than the pattern, simply because she asked for a longer strap, but the construction is exactly the same. So I have my strap panel, which is 4 inches wide by whatever length you want it to be, and it's interfaced with a woven fusible interfacing. So all I'm going to do is take my strap panel and I'm going to fold it in half, wrong sides together, and I'm going to press it so that I can get that nice crease down the middle. Now, if you bought a tailor's clapper when we did this the last sew along, this is a great time to use that tailor's clapper. I'm not actually sure where mine is. No, that's a lie. I do know where it is. There it is. Look, I will use my tailor's clapper, since I've made everybody else buy one. Well, I didn't make anybody buy one, but you guys are just, you like to you don't want to miss out on anything. So we're just going to press the whole thing in half. It's a lot easier on an ironing board, but I haven't got an ironing board in my room. I don't have room for an ironing board, so I just have my pressing mat. So it takes a little bit longer because I can only put so much fabric on my pressing mat at any one time. Now I've made the strap longer than it is in the pattern. It takes a bit longer to do. So the two long sides on your strap need to be matched perfectly. And for anybody who didn't get yourself a tailor's clapper and is thinking, what's she using? This is a tailor's clapper, and there is a video in our main group that shows you how to use one and why we use it. I'm not going to go into great depth now, because I feel like I'm almost repeating myself sometimes, because I say the same things on all of the videos, because I think, oh, there'll be somebody that didn't hear that last time. But you can go and find the video in the main group. Right, so that's my entire strap folded in half. Now I'm going to open up that fold, and you can see it's a really nice sharp crease in the middle, and I am going to fold both of these long edges in towards that fold. Now I'm making a 1 inch wide strap. If you fancied a slightly wider strap, then just make your panel wider, that's fine. You can get up to about 1.5 inches on this bag. It will work equally as well with a slightly thicker strap as it does with a 1 inch strap. And you're just folding those sides into that fold that you've just pressed in initially, and pressing again. Take your time. It will pay dividends if you do it properly and do it neatly and tidily. You'll get a nice evenly spaced, even strap. Sometimes if you do it too quickly, your strap will variate from 1 inch to 1 and a bit, and it just tends to be a bit less tidy. two raw edges should butt up to each other in the middle. This is a bit boring. It must be a bit like watching paint dry, I'm sorry. But I can't abide videos where people say, this is what we're going to do, then it goes really quickly, and you don't actually see somebody doing it, and you think, well, did they actually do it? Did they do what they said they did, or did they do it a different way and just not tell me? So I don't tend to speed things up, aside from which that I don't mess around editing my videos. You get them as they come. So if I make a mistake, or if something goes horribly wrong, you know, the thread snaps, the needle breaks, whatever, I can show you how to fix it. Real sewing, in a real sewing room, in a real sewing situation. Not with the mistakes edited out, because even with a lot of experience, and I do have a lot of experience, I still make mistakes. I still have things go wrong. Threads are not, I'm not in control of everything. I'd love to be, I'd like to think I am, but we know that's not the case. So you can either press one side in at a time or press both in at the same time. It's very much your call, whichever you feel most comfortable with. Sometimes it feels easier to just do one side at a time. You feel like you've got more control over where things are going. And for anybody that's wondering about this fabric, it is fabric, it's not cork. It's called uncorked, and it has the look of cork but without the thickness. So it's actually a cotton fabric that's been printed to look like cork leather. Just in case you're thinking, well, she said to do it in cotton, and she's not using cotton. I am. It just doesn't look like cotton, but I really like this stuff. I think it's really cool. I love cork, but it's so expensive, and this I think makes a really good substitute. Right, so now I've folded all of those long sides into the centre, and all I'm going to do is fold that strap in half again. Let's just find my clips. And clip those folded edges together. You can use as many or as few clips as you feel comfortable with. I tend to not use as many clips as I should do, perhaps, but again, it's a personal thing. Our Trudy likes to put lots of clips in everything. She's a clip fan. It just holds the whole thing together. Now you could, if you wanted to, just press that, press that fold in before you put the clips on. I don't. Not really sure why I don't actually, but I think it's possibly because I usually tend to be working with faux leather, and of course you can't press faux leather, so there we go. Let's pop those out of the way, and the pressing mat out of the way, so that you can see that's folded 4 folds. So we had that fold in the middle where we folded the whole panel in half wrong sides together. We opened it up, we folded the 2 long raw edges into the center, and then we folded it again, which fully encloses all those raw edges. There's no raw edges, there's just the fold on one side. So now we're going to top stitch down the side of our strap. Now I'm going to do 2 lines of stitching just because I like to do 2 lines of stitching. You don't have to. I'm going to do my first line of stitching at a scant 1/4 of an inch, and my second line of stitching at 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to increase my stitch length up to about 3.5. Again, I would normally do it longer, but because I've used 3.5 on my overlay, I want my stitching on my strap to be the same. I'm using the light coloured thread again, so I don't want it to look different. So now I'm using an ordinary Teflon foot. You could use your ordinary foot. I don't have, I do have compensating feet, but I'm not going to use them. Not everybody has them. And I'm not using a magnetic seam guide or anything like that. I just basically put my fingers either side of the strap to hold it in place. So if I just can get this a little bit closer, you might be able to see. So I've got my fingers either side of the strap, just the edge of my finger is touching that strap, and the strap stays nice and straight. Make sure before you do this that you have plenty of thread in your bobbin. There's nothing worse than running out of thread halfway down the strap. And make sure that your bobbin thread is matching your top thread, unless of course you want to have different coloured stitching on either side, which is a look. One that I've done in error before, but not one I've ever done by design. I'm stitching the folded side first to close that fold. Taking off the clips as I go. Now, if you're worried about your machine not being able to stitch through the layers of this bag, you might find that it's easier if you actually make a small connector that's just a double width. So if you're making a 1-inch strap, you'd need a piece that's 2 inches wide by possibly 4 inches long, just folded into the center, so not the 4-fold, just a 2-fold. And you could use that as a strap connector, but you would then need to use hardware of some sort to attach your strap. What I wanted to try and do with this was create a bag that didn't use too much hardware, because we all know hardware is expensive, and if you're a new bag maker, you don't want to have to go out and buy loads and loads of things to be able to make a bag, especially if you're not sure you're going to enjoy it, the old bag making malarkey. So there we go, that's one side stitched. And now I'm going to take it back to, I'm going back to the end that I started. I've turned it over because I'm going to do the other side. Now I generally always stitch from one end because it helps for you to not get a twisted strap. Now this side I don't have to stop to take the clips off, so I can kind of whiz down it. And you can see now that I'm using my fingers to keep my strap in place. Now I'm going back to the start again, and I'm going to do I'm just going to get rid of those first. My 1/8 of an inch stitching. Again, I'm starting at the same end as I did for the first 2 lines of stitching. And then I'm going to turn my strap over, go back to the end where I started my stitching and do my 1/8 of an inch stitching on the other side of my strap. Is it a strap or is it a handle? It's a strap. People often talk to me about not being able to stitch in a straight line when they're doing top stitching on a strap. And I think the secret is not to look at the needle, it's to look just ahead of the needle, so just in front of the needle, just get rid of those end bits. So I'm never actually watching the needle go up and down, I'm just looking just ahead, about here. So let's just press that strap now we've completed it. It's nice and flat, but there's no real need to press it, but I just think why not? And it does help to make it nice and thin. And we have a strap that's got no twists in it. It's not, some straps end up slightly like that, so they're twisted. And the reason for that, even with interfaced fabric, sometimes there's a little bit of residual stretch left in the fabric, and your presser foot pushes onto the fabric and it will just stretch it slightly. So if you stitch from this end and then come back the other way, your fabric will warp where it's stretched slightly, and that's what causes those, that's a bit extreme, but those twisted straps. If you do all of your stitching from one end, any stretch that's left in the fabric, it's stretched from the same direction, so it won't go twisty, curly. So let's just, you can either put that away or you can attach it to your bag now, which is what I'm going to do because I've got a nasty habit of putting things away and then not being able to find them. So I'm just going to take those clips off. I've been throwing my threads on the floor and the bag was on the floor, so that's not such a clever idea. So you're going to take your strap and you're going to be really careful to make sure that it's not twisted. So, oh, I've caught my thread on my machine. So there's no twists in that strap at all. I'm going to open up the side seam, and for me, I'm going to overlap my strap by approximately, I say 3/4 of an inch. It's probably a little bit, it's difficult to say actually how much it is. It's generally about 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to position it centrally on that side panel there. Let's find a clip. So it's going to go over the side seam and it's going to go straight, and you can actually put the strap down along the side seam to make sure that it's on there nice and straight. I'm going to make sure that, again, double check that my strap is not twisted in any way, shape or form. I'm going to go to the other side and I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to make sure it's nice and central, so running it down the side seam, and I'm going to have it approximately 1/2 an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch, hanging off the top of that small sort of straight bit on the side of the bag. Now the easiest way to stitch now is to actually, what have I done? Oh, that's it. Is to actually stitch from the inside so you can see where you need to stitch, because obviously my strap is actually extended above. Now I'm just going to make sure that my seam is open there, and I'm going to stitch across just 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the bag just to secure the strap in place. difficult for you to see because it's kind of inside the bag almost. I'm keeping my side seam open, which minimises the bulk. Let's get rid of my threads and then I can show you. So from the outside, you can just see that line of stitching. From the inside, it's just about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, and I've got that little bit of strap that's sticking out the top. This just helps, I'll show you why, but it helps to secure your strap rather than having it kind of coming out. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. When I say, oh, daisy, when I say coming out, straps that are only fitted like this sometimes have a nasty habit, if there's not much in the seam allowance, of fraying away from the bag when people overload their bags. Again, I'm stitching from the inside, which allows me to be able to see that I'm actually stitching through all of the layers. So I'm stitching on the inside, keeping the seam allowance open, and you can see the stitching on the outside. Don't chop those bits off. Actually, we don't chop, do we? We cut carefully. So now you can kind of almost hold your bag up and you have Bidaisy. Something that looks like a proper bag because it's got a handle. So now what we need to do is make our lining. So I'm going to gather my lining pieces and come back to you and show you how to do that.